415 North McKinley, Suite 710 in Little Rock. I'm attorney Theodore Thompson, and I want to provide you with the best legal representation.
I'm so glad I found the Kick Above. It's like my very own personal training studio. A Kick Above removed the guesswork and intimidation and offered me a very supportive and structured environment specific to my personal goals. Kim Lever and her certified personal trainers even offered nutritional guidelines to my personal workout. It's about me at a Kick Above. Call 501-868-8850 or go to kickabove.com. Now, what am I wearing tonight? Thanks to a Kick Above, I look marvelous.
Serving the families of Clark County and the surrounding area since 1966, it's Mitchell Funeral Home. Understanding that a funeral is a celebration of life, the entire staff of Mitchell Funeral Home takes great pride in the caring, personal, and professional service they offer. Cremations, funeral plannings, burial policies, life insurance, notary, and monument sales are a few of the services we offer. Mitchell Funeral Home, Arkadelphia, 870-246-2611. Mitchell Funeral Home. Quality you can appreciate, service you can depend on.
You got it. Easy Orthodox answer to your aggravation. Joy Network.
The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, and surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman and Robert Webb.
Well, what's happening? What's happening? It is Black Focus Radio. Dave Coleman in the house. Robert Webb will be here in just a little bit. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. You know, as we like to say around here, our issues, our solutions, our voices. Let me just say that again. Our. That means us. That means black folks. Our issues. Our. That means us. That means black folks. Our solutions. Our, that means us. That means black folks. Our voices. That doesn't mean that we won't get other voices. We invite everyone, but we are about solutions on this show. And believe it or not, when you're trying to fix your community, there are a whole lot of black folks out there and white folks who are mad at you because they don't want you to fix your community. They want to leave it just the way it is. Hey, Rozelle, could you get that door for me? Rozelle, could you get... They want to leave it just the way it is. But we refuse to allow that to happen, especially on this show. So you can call me up at 855-525-5683. You know, we're on Monday through Friday, noon to 2 p.m. And then, of course, the weekly sports magazine on Saturday mornings. Black Facts are coming up here in just a moment, and it's going to center around Little Rock, as a matter of fact, today. Also, want to remind people that our first Little Rock Central broadcast is tonight. It begins at 5 p.m. Well, actually, it begins at 4. You know what I'm going to do? Why don't I do this just to show y'all how we making this happen? Let me just play the opening for the show tonight, all right? Because we serious up in here. So let's just sit back a minute. This is the opening for the Little Rock Central broadcast tonight.
Tradition, a sacred asset woven into the fabric of all that we are. And it lives here, in the capital city, in the walls of the great Central Tiger Eye. To be remembered, to be respected, and to those who oppose it to be feared.
It's football time in Arkansas. Hail to the old gold, hail to the black. The Little Rock Central Tigers are on the air. Let's go down to Belleville Quigley Stadium and Bernie Cox Field and join former Tiger team captain and state champion David W. Thornton for all of the exciting play-by-play action. Hail to the old gold, hail to the black. The Little Rock Central Tigers are back on JoyNetRadio.com.
Boy, that just give me chills.
Self-promotion much?
Ooh, that just give me chills, man.
Self-promotion much?
I'm just saying. I have
didn't
to.
say anything about the Tigers. Just talking about David Cole.
It was talking about the Tigers.
That's a great spot.
But that is a great open. Thanks to J.C. Love for putting that together for us. We want to put on our good face for a great school with a great tradition, and we're trying to restore the roar for Little Rock Central. So it begins tonight. Play-by-play action. You can catch me tonight right here on JoyNet Radio. The game starts at 5 o'clock. There are 2 games. That's why it's starting so early. There's another game that will start soon after this game is over. I'm kind of glad Central is doing the first game, so that way we don't have to stay. Because I think last night, the game, they had 2 games, 2 last night, and they're going to have 2 tonight. And I don't think that second game last night started till about 8:30. So they were over there till 11 o'clock last night. So I'm glad we've got the first game. So we're going to be broadcasting all of the home football games for Little Rock Central High. If you are a sponsor, if you are a business, we've got a great sponsorship package available for you. So please, by all means, this money, and I'm going to tell you where this money is going to go. This money is going to go to build and help build, at least start some seed money for the Little Rock Central athletic program where they can build an athletic facility. One of the things that we've discovered, look, Central has all the tradition, has all of the state championships. What it doesn't have today is up-to-date facilities. And these young people, the way the school system is set up now in Arkansas, you can basically go to any school you want, as long as you can get there. And a lot of these kids are choosing to go to places like Mills and I was going to say Old Main, but North Little Rock High, because they have updated facilities. So if we want the best athletes to come to the best school in the state of Arkansas, then we certainly need to have the best facilities. All right. So this is the beginning of that process. So I am proud to be able to lend my voice and my support to this worthwhile endeavor. So I'm calling out all Tigers. I'm calling you all out. If you've got a business, you don't even have to have a business. You can make a donation, but do something. Let's support the Little Rock Central High Tigers. All right. So that's my shameless self-promotion for right now. Hey, Robert, how you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
Is that shirt pink or purple? Or is it lavender? I'm just asking, man. I was, you're looking flowery today.
My brother.
I'm just asking,
I was
man.
not in an excellent mood this morning.
Oh,
it would
okay.
be on and popping
Okay.
this afternoon.
I'm so glad you're in a good mood. So we want to keep you in a good mood today, at least for the next couple
If
of
we ain't
hours.
talking about what went down yesterday, I am not gonna be in a good mood.
All right, so here are a couple of things
Because
we need to talk
yesterday
about.
they held that place hostage.
So we're going to talk about
They
certainly
called the police on the black folks
the
yesterday.
school board, the I guess you say the school meeting last night. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we gotta talk about that. We gotta talk about this cooning they was doing.
We're going to talk about the landmark decision by the courts that sued Johnson and Johnson.
So can we sue the federal government? Can we sue the federal government for the cracking beginning?
Boy,
What's up? What's up? I'm
Wait
just
a
asking.
minute. Before you say
I'm
that,
just waiting to hear whether or not he's going to talk about Central High School fight.
well, ain't nobody worried about no fight.
Well, what's up?
see,
What's up with the fight though? Everybody had fights
Let's
in
see
high
that-
school.
Let me, if y'all may,
This thing on.
I'm gonna turn it off in a moment. If y'all don't shut up. All right. So let me go ahead and read the teas, and then we'll do black facts, and then you all can destroy my programming for my show today. Okay.
Fantastic.
All right.
Fantastic.
So Oklahoma wins landmark case against drug maker. Who do black people sue for the crack epidemic fostered by this government? So I was channeling what you just said, okay? Also, are rappers changing their tunes? E40, don't know who he is, saying rappers need to step up their game. I think that's important. Also, on-air personality in Oklahoma calls her co-host a gorilla on air. And then she whines for an apology. And behind child support, you may get a chance to get your license back. So that's in a nutshell what we're going to talk about today. But before we do that, let's do Black Facts.
They gave me permission to stick around for a little while.
Our culture, our history, our people.
I beg for permission to stick around until it's time to
All right, so we've got a couple of Black Facts today, but the one that I'm going to read is it surrounds Little Rock, okay? The first school for African Americans in Arkansas opened in 1875 as the Branch Normal College, designed to train black teachers. The Branch Normal College opened 2 years prior to opening of Walden Seminary, later known as what, guys, since y'all are so smart?
Where is it located?
UAPB?
Later known, the Walden Seminary, later known as
The way UAPB?
Philander Smith College, which opened in 1877. The Branch Normal College, located in where?
That's UAPB.
Pine Bluff, later became Arkansas A&M, and then the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. The Morrill Act of 1890 made the school a land-grant institution for African American students. Although the act specified equitable division of monies among the white and black schools, Arkansas was allowed to give 8/11 to Arkansas Industrial University, known as the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville, and 3/10 to the Branch Normal, which is UAPB. Philander Smith College was chartered as a 4-year college in 1881 and offered courses in journalism, advertising, composition with vocational classes. In the late 1880s and then the 90s, the college offered classical and scientific degrees with courses in Greek, Latin, algebra, and philosophy. And that's our Black Fact for today. And don't forget, you can sponsor Dynamic Black Facts. Just call me up at 615-554-0568, and we'll make that happen for you. So, got a couple of things, a lot of things to talk about just quickly, and then we'll get into what happened last night at the school meeting, and of course some of the other things. Just quickly, yesterday afternoon, Oklahoma, along with, well, this was a landmark ruling. They had sued Johnson & Johnson for $17 billion.
I'm waiting.
Okay.
I'm waiting.
and this is why I'm bringing this up.
I'm waiting.
Okay.
I'm waiting.
So yesterday, a judge ruled that Johnson & Johnson was liable because of the drugs or the opioids that they put into the state of Oklahoma, and awarded the state $572 million in a settlement. Well, it's not a settlement. That's what the ruling was. Now, from what I understand, well, it's going to be appealed and appealed. But as I sat on the news watching this unfold, I'm like you, Robert. The first thing popped into my mind was, how many people can we sue about the crack epidemic? Because we know for a fact now that the government put crack in our communities. And as a matter of fact, one of those people that are running around who was the head drug dealer, Oliver North, was just relieved of his duties of the NRA. All right, so he got some
We
money.
have to go. He was not the head drug dealer.
Well, that's right. I forgot.
He
Reagan
was
was.
like fourth or fifth
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Reagan was the
Reagan
head
was
guy.
the head.
Oliver North wasn't anymore. Well, I say not anymore. He was the trafficker. He was the mule.
He was the mule.
Yeah, he was the mule.
Right.
Good,
He was the
good,
mule.
good. So when I saw this, I knew I had to talk about this just a little bit on the show because we as black people can't sit around and say, "Oh, isn't that wonderful?" When in fact we still have people, mamas, daddies, cousins, uncles, brothers, sisters, distant cousins, still serving time for the crack epidemic.
Yeah.
Many of them, those who are not serving time, many of them are still addicted to that vicious drug that was instilled in our community by this government. You see, so where are the attorneys generals when it comes to suing the federal government for the crack epidemic? I'm just asking the question.
Yeah.
Can y'all help a black man out
But,
here?
but I think that's part of the problem too, because just like both of you, I thought the same thing. And then I also thought about how interesting it is that a state can sue a private company, but it's almost impossible for a state or an individual to sue the federal government for for the same criminal act.
Right.
So the state, right, can sue the private businesses,
Right.
but they have a difficult to impossible time suing the federal government and people
Or
just
state governments, for that matter.
And just like you just said, I've got kinfolks, y'all got kinfolks that are still suffering from the epidemic that did not become a national emergency until white folks' drugs got them addicted. Also,
Again, let's do this the way they did it, right? Because we have to be fair. Let's be fair.
Okay.
So they're saying the reason they sued them was because of the economic hardship that this placed on the state.
Yeah.
So let's just take a minute and just talk about economic hardship, if you want to, right?
justice.
So let's talk about the
Yeah.
millions of dollars, right? The millions upon millions of dollars that were lost in the black communities because of this same thing, right? I mean, but again, we don't have the numbers for health care because we were not treated for what happened to us.
Right.
We're in prison, right? So we don't have the health care numbers. So we don't have those numbers. We can't say, well, you know what? They spent $200 million going to hospitals. We don't have those numbers because guess what? Unless they were shot, they didn't get those numbers because they imprisoned us, right? Now we could look at we could take some time and look at I guess we'd look at the impact that you having to hire more police officers, which is also a detriment to a city because when you hire more police, that means that's less money you have for infrastructure and all those other things, right? So we start breaking this down, man. This gets ugly, and I'm wondering myself why they ain't never filed no lawsuit against the crack epidemic. Why was that not one? That for me, you have lost more money by way of crack
What's up, D?
than you have anything else.
I
And
agree.
think about it. We're talking about prison population. We're talking about hiring police officers. We're talking about all these ancillary things they put into place to not support the crack epidemic, but to abate it, but to kill it. Right? You spent a ton of money that you could have spent doing other things just to try to stop crack.
What I'm surprised about is how many black folks that don't believe that this act is discriminatory when they make the difference between crack cocaine and opioids or methamphetamine. We still got black folks that don't see that it's an issue of race because, and it's clearly, all of the evidence says it's an issue of race. All of the evidence says that we were victimized by the government. But we have, I expect a lot of white folks to say that, no, this not any different. We just finally found a new way, or we just decided that, okay, maybe we should try this. We're trying something new, not because it's white folks, but because we decided to try something new. I'm not surprised at them when they say it,
Right.
but I'm surprised at black folks when black folks say, well, they just didn't think about it when we was on crack. I mean, really? What? They didn't think about rehabilitation. They didn't think about mental health when we were on crack. They just all of a sudden had this epiphany and said, I wonder if we should try right, rehabilitation instead of incarceration.
That should be an option.
Right?
Yeah.
But we got black folks that are still saying that, we have some black folks that are saying it.
Well, I think for me, you hear people saying, I've heard and read this on Facebook, that the opioid epidemic is totally different than the crack epidemic.
Right? Yes, sir. Yeah.
Because guess
Yeah,
what?
That's what they say.
Those were innocent people.
Yes.
Those were innocent people who went in to get help.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you something. I already know. When I was in college, I liked cocaine. I liked it. I did. I'll admit, I did like cocaine. But let me tell you something. I would never, for the life of me, do crack. Ever. Ever. And if you send me to a doctor, I'm gonna tell the doctor up front, I don't want that medicine. The reason I don't want it, I don't care how much pain it is, because I know what happens with that, right? I know that everybody talking about weed's a gateway drug. Nah, dog.
Yeah,
nah,
but
weed
see-
ain't a gateway drug. But that's the conversation we have,
right.
right?
Sure you
Now, here we are. We enjoy. We know what we like. If we all sit there and say, "Hey," Rizal might say, "You know what? I love a good bourbon," right? Well, Rizal knows if you take too much
I don't.
bourbon, but he doesn't because he's
But I get it.
He's a pastor. but you get my point, right? You know that if you have too much bourbon, then you know what that's going to do to you. And you know it makes you susceptible to other things, right? So you don't even you don't even push yourself to that limit.
Right.
That's the same thing I see with this. Now, everybody wants to say it's all about accountability, right? So you're telling me that black folks, they knew what they were doing? They knew that when they got high, because think about it. The people who started doing crack, it wasn't like they was already walking the streets. You talking about people who had great jobs. I had cousins who had great jobs who started doing crack.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and I think you made an excellent point just a moment ago, is that a lot of people in society, both black and white, believe that there's a difference in becoming addicted to a legal drug in contrast to an illegal drug. But I know that, but a lot
Addiction
of people,
is addiction, right?
a lot of people in society believe that the crimes associated with addiction of a legal drug are different from the crimes associated with an illegal drug.
Right.
And the problem is that the majority of people that were hooked on crack cocaine, of course, were African Americans, right? And it was an illegal drug. And when you look at painkillers and opioids, it began from a legal drug.
Right.
And so they're saying that these people addicted to opioids were victims of the pharmaceutical companies, the legal drugs,
How
right?
are they victims?
They were victims of the legal drug dealers.
Let's
Whereas black folks made a conscious
They made a
decision
conscious effort
to break the law,
Break the law.
and get high, right?
That's
And
it.
so many people in society are saying that, or distinguishing that as a difference and a reason to support what they're doing now for people addicted to methamphetamine and opioids, is that, well, painkillers were legal and crack cocaine ain't never been legal, so that makes black folks that own crack worse than white folks.
That is the
own
most
opioids.
ridiculous argument
And that's
I've
exactly,
ever
but
heard.
that's
But that's
exactly
the
what they
argument,
argue.
though.
Because
That's exactly
at the
what they
end of the
argue.
day,
But
when they began to get addicted, they pursued drugs that were illegal.
Who
Okay.
But who allowed?
But who said the motion?
Who
See-
allowed the dispensing of the legal opioids?
Well,
it was the federal government,
Right.
right?
So let
but
me-
the federal government is not taking responsibility. They're blaming
They
the
never
pharmaceutical
did. Exactly.
company for hurting the white drug addicts, but won't accept the responsibility for hurting black drug
So
addicts.
let me give you an example. When I had my neck
Okay.
surgery,
Yes.
when I got out of the hospital, there used to be a little store that I would go to in my neighborhood. I was a regular. So when I got out of the hospital, I had this big bandage on my neck. It was pretty clear that I had some surgery, and I went into the store, and the young lady, who was white, behind the counter said, "Ooh, what happened to you?" I said, "Well, I had a little surgery, and I gave her little details about it." She said, "Oh, well, I guess you got some pretty good pain pills." I said, "Yeah, they took care of me, yada, yada, yada." She said, "Well, just between you and I," and we were the only one in the store at the time, "just between you and I, if you ever want to get rid of them, I'll give you $25 a pill." So
Yeah.
at that point,
Don't do it.
she was illegal. You get what I'm saying? So
She worked in the pharmacy.
she-
I see Rob making a doctor's appointment right
you know,
now.
but
I need some
but
opioids, dog.
well, look, here's what's so tragic about it. So every time I would go to the doctor, they would give me 90 hydrocodones. Did you hear what I just said?
Ooh, that's a good party.
90
That's a good
hydrocodones.
That's a good party.
25
And-
times 90.
So, and I would go once a month
Yeah.
because I had major surgery. I mean, I've told people
Right.
about it, all right? I would go once a month, and he would always ask me, "Dave, how's your pain level?" And I said, well, it's okay. He said, well, I'll write you another script. I said, well, I've already got some left over. That's okay, I'll write you another script. So I went in one day, and this was the first time that I had ever been in his office where he had other patrons. But the irony is, his office was probably as big as this, not just this studio, but this office where we are.
Wow.
It was packed to the brim. In fact, there were people standing out in the hallway. You could not get in there. And so when he called me up, he asked me, as he always did, Dave, how's your pain level? I said, well, I'm fine. Still got pills left over. Because I'm like you, Robert, I'm not taking those pills unless I just have to. Right. So he looks at me and he says, Dave, I really appreciate you. And I was like, huh? He says, you're one of the toughest SOBs I've ever met. He said, you came in here with a broken neck, you didn't even know it, but more importantly, you never asked me for pills. He says, see all of those people out in my lobby? And I'm telling you guys, it had to be at least 75 people. He said, every one of them are here to get pain pills.
Yeah.
You hear what I'm saying? And he said, by law, he has to give them to them. If their prescription is up, by law, he has to give it to them.
Yeah,
you see, so the law mandated that a doctor prescribed. Now, certainly, he was making money from the pharmaceuticals because I worked in a hospital. I know how that works. But the law, because the law can't say how bad my pain is.
Right.
You see, my pain is different from your pain.
Right.
So by law, he had to fill 75 prescriptions just that day.
That's problematic to me. That's problematic to me on a number of levels. But the thing that bothers me most about this whole thing is, for years, you would hear people say about black folk, that's just terrible. And you had black folks who was abandoning their own families because people were saying, oh, they just don't want nothing. They just crazy. They just doing all kind of terrible stuff. But now, I'm watching these. I mean, I even remember these crack commercials they had and all this stuff that was going on during that time. And now you see the opioid epidemic, and all you see is white faces, and everybody talking about how loving it is to love all your family. But when it was black folk, though, it wasn't loving. It wasn't about loving us. It was about locking us up and telling us how terrible we are if your family's doing drugs. And now people talked about how they were stealing TVs. And I remember a couple of months ago, it was longer than that. I watched this show. I don't know if you remember, some girl in California. What she does is she goes around and she helps these addicts get clean, right? Well, they ain't talking to this mother and father. The mother and father, who are white, are saying, hey, we had to put them out. We had to get bars on our doors. We had to get a security system. And she said, yeah, I understand how it is. And the guy says, well, why'd you have to do all that? Well, because he was breaking in and steal all our TVs. And he said, the father said, we went out and got TVs. They came and stole TVs on Monday. We went out Monday night, bought new TVs. Came back Tuesday after work, and all the TVs were gone again. Right?
Same thing.
Same thing happened in the black community. But this time, well, we still love him, and we want to get it.
Watch this. The Oklahoma case where the judge just made the ruling on yesterday. I don't know if the two of you know this or not, but two of the state prosecutors, Oklahoma state prosecutors that filed this lawsuit, right? One of them lost his oldest son to opioids.
To overdose.
And the other, and then the other had lost a niece to opioids. And so I'm saying that because when you only have white people, I'm not talking about racism or discrimination, when you only have white people in positions of authority and there's an issue that impacts us, they're less likely to address it, except when it happens to them and they're in the positions of authority, and then they address it. And that's exactly
an excellent point.
What happened in this Oklahoma case, because they made a point of saying, one of the prosecutors made a point, he said, my eldest son died from opioid addiction. And then he pointed to the other, both these men are white, then he pointed to the other white prosecutor and said his niece died from opioid addiction. And so when we have people in positions of authority that don't look like us, then in many cases, they are going to do things that are really discriminatory towards us, prejudiced toward us, because we don't have anybody in those positions that are going to stand up and say, well, what about us?
Right.
What about us? And see, if we're not electing people, if we're not registering people to vote, if we're not getting them to go vote and elect people that not only look like us, but know where we come from from where we come from,
Right.
then we will never see justice in regards to when we talk about the criminal justice system, opioids, and crack cocaine, because they're not going to do anything until something happens to somebody in their house. When their TVs come up stole, when their homes are getting broke into, when their kids are cussing them out, and they're the state prosecutor, then they're going to go to spend our tax dollars, right, to get revenge or payback for their children.
Yeah, because it looks like them. I think that is an excellent point, Rizal, and I want to make this point. I make this point all the time, and I'm going to do it again. I want to say it was 2013. No, probably 2010. So, 3 black men are shot and killed on 12th Street at the NAPCO. Right? 3 black men shot and killed. In a week's time, one white boy gets shot. He gets murdered by Daryl Dennis, right? He gets, I think it happened on a Thursday night. I want to say Thursday night. I know it was like Thursday, Friday, something like that, right? Monday for day, bruh, they announce a meeting. What they getting ready to do is they getting ready to round up all the absconders. All the absconders, they rounding them up. Now, if you don't know what an absconder is, it's someone who's on probation or parole, who hadn't reported to his officer, who hadn't paid his restitution or whatever, right? They rounded up all of them, right?
What color were the people that made the decision?
They were all white.
All white.
But my point is, you had 3 black males who were murdered in the same damn place.
And those same white folks didn't make a decision to take any action until something happened to a white person.
Well, see, what happened was they were planning to make the decision.
They didn't think about it until after the white man was killed. They did not even discuss.
Well, see, they would wait a minute. They were discussing behind closed doors. You all just didn't know about the meeting.
No. Even I went to the meeting because I wanted to know what they were talking about. I wanted to hear this conversation because they had to include these brothers in this conversation. They had to. It just wouldn't make sense not to, right? They went there. They talked about absconders. They talked about how we keep them locked up. Now, at the time, Maristola was mayor. You had David Sanders. He was, I think then, I want to say he wasn't a senator then. I think he was just a state rep then. And it was hosted by guess who?
Fox 16.
No, the Arkansas Times, the most racist goddamn paper in town, but everybody loved them. Y'all just love their ass to death. But they ain't got no black writers over there, but y'all love them to death. Y'all think they so damn progressive. You ain't progressive because you write about shit.
Who is y'all?
You ain't progressive because you write about stuff. You progressive because you hire black folks.
Are you casting aspersions on myself and Rizal?
Of course not. Y'all love Arkansas. Did I? My grandma always say you throw a rock in the crowd, the one that barred, that's the one you hit.
But I don't want to distract from his point because, again, he makes an excellent point.
But everybody...
That when the people in positions of authority don't look like us and don't come from where we come from, if something happens to one of them, they take action. In contrast, when something happens to one of us, they fail to take action. And it's happened all through history in regards to white folks and black folk, and one of the main reasons is because there's a lack of people that look like us, that come from where we are from, that are in office. And I want to say this, is that a lot of times there are people in positions of authority that look like us, but don't.
Just because they look like us don't mean they're with us.
Yeah.
Chief Feeks.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Quit talking about
now, see, I wasn't even going to talk about. I wasn't even going to talk about.
What? I just sneezed. I just sneezed.
I wasn't even going to talk about the Little Rock Assistant Chief of Police. Haywood Finks. I wasn't going to say it, but since Dave brought it up,
I didn't bring up a thing.
You did bring it up.
I didn't bring up a thing.
There are black folks that when bad things happen to us. Black folks in position of authority, that when bad things happen to us, such as what happened to Bradley Blackshire Sr., there are black folks that are going to side with the white folks that have made, I started to call it a mistake. That wasn't a mistake. That was intentional. That white folks like Charles Starks that have committed acts of violence against black folks. And we have people that are in positions of authority like Finks, who could have supported the termination of Charles Starks, but instead he did exactly what racist white folks wanted him to do. So just having a black face is not always the solution, but we may stand a better
Guys,
chance.
we need to
I'm not going to talk about
we
this.
need to move on because we got some other stuff.
I'm not
we
going
need
to talk
cover.
about this graham cracker. I'm going to let y'all talk about that graham cracker. I ain't saying nothing about that graham cracker.
Oh, that's mean. All right, we need to move on. We'll come back to this if
All
we
right,
have
go
some more
ahead.
time. A couple other notes in Oklahoma. We're talking about Oklahoma just quickly. Let's see. And I actually saw the initial video of this. In a tearful segment on KOCO, a morning anchor, Alex Hudson, apologized to her co-host, Jason Hackett, after comparing him to a gorilla during a broadcast on
Why is
Thursday.
she compared to a gorilla?
So they were doing, they were doing a segment about
Was it in
gorillas.
reference to his man part?
Just hang on a minute.
Okay.
They were doing a segment on the Oklahoma Zoo about gorillas. Hudson ended the segment with the comment, "Kind of looks like you," towards Hackett, who was black. Now here's the irony behind it. Here's what Hackett said. He kind of does, actually. Huh? All right. The following day, Hackett, who was an African American, accepted her apology and said he wanted to take the experience as a teachable moment to his viewers. The lessons here is words matter. We have to understand the stereotypes. We have to understand each other's backgrounds, and that words hurt, that words cut deep. Okay? Here's what she said. I hurt people. I want you to know I understand how much I hurt you out there and how much I hurt you. She said, crying. So here's the problem I have with this. Here is the guy who was victimized by this white woman's statement on air, and he didn't resist it initially. He said, the gorilla kind of does looks like him. Actually, yeah. That's basically him kowtowing to that white person and the white establishment. At that point, he should have looked at her, and if you can see this picture, folks, if you go back and look at it, he looks at her incredulously, saying, hey, what the hell are you saying? You can see it in his eyes, yet he basically says, yeah, I kind of do look like a gorilla. What kind of mess is that? So that's Oklahoma for you. One other note, because we definitely want to get into, and I want to have a little conversation about this. I don't know who E40 is. Do you know who E40 is?
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't tell you. If you played one of his cuts today, I couldn't tell you who it was. Rap lost me when they went to the gangster stuff. They just did, all right? And then they lost me even further when I soon found out that many of them that was promulgating gangsterism, all of that drugs, gangs, and violence.
Well, E40 wasn't like that.
I'm just saying,
Okay.
many of them didn't even live those lives.
That's very true.
Okay.
Did not, yeah,
They didn't even live those lives. So they were making money off of pain and misery in the black community, yet they were growing up in lily white households. So the point I'm making is that's when rap lost me.
Well, that's
Okay.
when it came with the phrase studio gangster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's when but E40 apparently has come out, and I'm gonna read a little bit of this article to you, and I think it's because, well, let me just read the article to you first. Few people are more qualified to speak on do's and don'ts of hip hop than E40. Throughout his 30-year career, 40 has produced independent distribution, endured countless changing trends in the culture, and has managed to stay relevant and successful through it all. That kind of longevity is staggering, and the more I learn about the career of Earl Stevens, the more I realize luck has had very little to do with his success. E40 is a brilliant businessman and incredibly prolific artist, and at nearly 50 years old, the Bay Area legend still has a solid grasp on his purpose within hip-hop. Here's what he says. On the way back from the Warriors game, we're talking about this new album, The D-Boy Diary, and contemporary trends in rap music, and he mentions something that bothers him. Rappers who do nothing but show off and talk blank. the S word. If you ain't in this game to teach somebody something, to try to uplift their spirit or give them motivation about whatever the blank they're doing, you shouldn't be rapping. Get out of the game. I asked him what sort of rap bothered him particularly. Bragging, he said, which can be 10% motivation, but the 90% is like a lot of people ain't living that like that. Man, at least show them how to get out of it. Teach them some business skills and some ways to flip the money. But no, they don't talk about that. He continued, getting still more worked up. If you ain't doing nothing for the children, you are a BMF. F you and whatever horse you ride in on. I don't give a blank about your Bentleys, your Phantoms, your luxury cars. If you ain't doing nothing for the kids, you are a B-boy. That's E40. That's what I'm talking about. Because when I think about music, when we grew up, there was always innuendo music. You know what? You know what I mean by that? The Isley Brothers.
Oh yeah, they talk about having sex all the time.
But you didn't know they were talking about having sex, okay? But you also had people like Marvin Gaye. You also had people like the OJs that were singing "I Love Music" and "Family." It's a family reunion. You had them. You had them talking about "Ship Ahoy."
It was
things that were educating the people to move
It
forward.
was a different time, and then when the whole cracking within the kid, our music drastically changed.
Yeah.
And I, to some degree, I'm gonna say this. To some degree, I enjoyed some of the gangster rap, and let me say this: I enjoyed the clever gangster rap. Right? I like NWA. I like Ice-T's Cop Killer, but I liked it not because of the content, but because of the artistry. Right? Now, there's some gangster rappers I ain't got no use for, but the old guys, the guys who came back through in the early '90s, late '80s, early '90s, I loved all their stuff. KRS-One.
Yeah.
Big Daddy Kane, all those guys, man. I love those guys. I truly love those guys. Even Young MC, even though he only had one hit, but I still love that kind of music because again, that music was uplifting and it was powerful.
My favorite of all time is The Message.
Yeah, but that's the first one, so it's got to be your favorite.
Message.
It's got to be your favorite.
And if you don't know who The Message was by,
Sugar Hill Gang, baby.
no, there wasn't.
That was the message. Sugar Hill Gang.
The Message was by Grandmaster Flash
that's
and
right.
the Furious Five.
That's right.
Don't push me because I'm close to the
I keep getting them
edge.
mixed up with Sugar Hill
I'm
Gang.
trying not to lose my head. I mean, it was just, and they came back song after song about trying to tell you what's going to happen to you in these streets if you're not careful. Now the Sugar Hill Gang was hip hop, hippity. That was
They were hip hop long before.
that they were the ones that actually started it off when they stole Good Times, and I hated it because I was a Chic fan, and I still say today that they ruined that song. But again, the rest is history, so to speak. So
I think some songs they sample are incredible. Like I said, the artistry. I think some songs. I mean, Biggie's when he did the remake over Juicy, I thought that was remarkable. I thought that was great. Right? Of course you are. But of course, my favorite artist of all time, forever and a day, will always be Tupac. I mean, Tupac. I think he was a lyrical genius, and the first album was remarkable. I still have the whole first album in my phone right now. Yeah, okay, Dave. You just a hater, man. But you know what? I understand you're not liking that because you grew up in the days of big band. So I understand you're not digging this day. I get it, man. I get it, bro.
there was only one real true artist.
Who was that?
What color is your shirt?
Purple.
There you go. I don't have to say nothing else. Nothing. 'Cause when you said purple, everybody knew who I'm talking about.
Hey, man.
Okay? There was only one real true artist.
No.
Okay?
You can't do that. You can't
Everybody
do that. You
else.
can't do that. You can't say that there's only one real true artist.
Okay.
Now, what I will give you is that Prince was the only cat I knew who could play a plethora of instruments.
32 to be precise.
He could play a plethora of instruments.
32
Right?
to be
And I
precise.
can't remember which album it is, but he played all the instrumentals I can't remember which album it was.
I want to say it was the For You album.
Was it For
the,
You album?
one of the early ones.
I can't remember now, but he played every instrument, and I thought that was remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to that album just to see how many instruments I could
You could
identify.
not- yeah,
I was thinking, dang, this dude's remarkable. Now he's good. Don't get me wrong.
good.
I think I
Good.
apologize. He's great. Don't get me
Okay.
wrong.
All
Prince
right.
is great. However, I think if I had to have a Mount Rushmore of musical talent, I'd have to put Prince and Michael Jackson up there. Without a doubt, I'd have to add Tupac. And my fourth man, I know people gonna get mad at me because women. I hear women right now screaming everywhere. Where's the women? So if I was gonna add a fourth, and it's just my bias, man. She probably ain't the greatest one, but it would be Alicia Keys.
What?
Yeah,
Riri? Alicia Keys over Riri.
yeah.
Oh, by the way, so where's Marvin on that mountain?
This is my Mount Rushmore. You can put it who the hell you want to. This is mine.
You just don't know music, bro.
This is mine.
You is,
So who on your Mount Rushmore then?
look, it's gonna be Marvin Gaye.
Okay.
It's gonna be Prince.
Okay.
As far as a woman is concerned, it's got to be Aretha
You
Franklin.
just putting one woman up there?
There could be.
How you gonna just put one woman up there?
Yeah.
Now let me tell you why I'm putting Alicia up there, because Alicia plays a plethora of instruments as
Mm-hmm.
well. Just like, and I'm putting, I want to. Mine's kind of a little weird though, right? So I'm throwing people up there because of their. I mean, I threw MJ up there because MJ, man, was phenomenal.
He was a
Right?
great
He was
entertainer.
a great entertainer. I
Yeah.
threw him up there for that reason. I threw Tupac up there because Tupac is a lyrical genius. I don't care what anybody says, the way he puts those words together, blind out. I put Alicia Keys up there because she plays a plethora of instruments. And of course, Prince, the same thing. Prince is just a great overall artist. And then, my thing is you look at what they produce outside, right? So if you look at all Sheena E, Time, you look at all these groups that spur from Prince. If you look at Michael Jackson, that was nothing that really
Nothing.
spurred from Michael Jackson. But
In fact, you heard people saying we got to, during the 80s, late 80s and 90s,
Yeah.
you heard people saying we need a Prince sound.
we need a Prince sound, right?
We looking for that Prince sound.
There was no Prince sound.
That just shows you how profound he was, because everybody was looking for that Prince
There
sound.
was no Prince sound.
You know, so he's
Right.
got to be on that,
Right
but
on.
you've got to have Marvin on there. There's just,
Okay, I'll give
there's
you
just no
Marvin.
ifs,
I'll give
ands,
you
or buts
Marvin.
about
That's
that.
the great thing about Mount Rushmore. Anybody can be on Mount Rushmore as long as you were born after 1960. So unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
Marvin's not gonna make it. He's more your generation player. Are we moving on to the next one? Oh, there we go.
That's okay.
So I'm surprised you didn't put Lawrence Welk on yours, man.
No,
I'm surprised because I mean that's probably the first thing you heard when
you
you
know,
were growing
I was
up.
really thinking about Ed Sullivan myself.
Well, Ed Sullivan might be a little
Yeah.
dated. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought you would go back. You know, I thought you would go back to maybe
Yeah.
put Beethoven on yours.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I was thinking about
that's
them,
what
yeah.
you were back then.
Well,
yeah,
you-
that's during your time.
Well, you know, Beethoven was a brother.
Yeah, of course. He
So
was.
there you go.
So yeah, I thought you put him up there. I thought you threw him up there.
No,
and see what's
no,
what.
I didn't. I didn't put him up there.
Yeah, but rap music really has made a transition, man. And I'm really.
I hope
disappointed.
it's. I'm hoping that it's going back.
I doubt it.
You know, it seems to be. Now look, I don't listen to rap music. I just can't stomach it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't listen to
I
that new
can't.
stuff now.
You know, that thing, garbage in, garbage out. I gotta. You know, when I really wanted to be motivated, I could go throw on some 60s. No, it's a funny thing about it. When I was in Hawaii, my son, the whole trip, and I thought he actually did it for me, but picked me up, and you know what he's jamming? He's jamming old school R&B.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something crazy. I'm gonna tell you something really crazy, right? So when I was going to the board meeting, I know I was gonna be speaking. It's 5 songs I had to hear before I went into the board meeting. Yeah. One was F the Police. The other one was Soldier Story by Tupac. That's terrible, man.
Yeah, it is.
I know. But it's a good song.
You're
though. It's a
violent.
good song. No, it's not violent. And the other one was Dollars and Cents by DJ Quick. I'll just leave it there. I won't. I
No,
won't
keep
say the
going.
rest.
No, keep
I
going.
listened to Cop Killer by Ice Cube.
Are you
I'm not
rapping?
gonna tell you the last one.
No, what's the
No,
other?
I just needed that motivation, man. When I'm going down, I wanted to be in the right headspace, and so those are the songs I listened to before I went to the board meeting. And if I didn't listen to them, man, it just seemed like I was. It's just.
Oh, I just realized the other woman that I put up there,
Who's that?
Sade.
Sade's pretty good. I forgot about Sade. Sade
Yeah.
was tight. She was tight.
Yeah,
She was tight.
those two women, Aretha Franklin and Sade. And we forget how long Sade has been in this business.
She's been in there for a minute, man.
You know, we forget. I mean,
but everybody, I'm getting a text now, so stop it, people, because Whitney Houston does not go.
and
it doesn't have anything to do with her doing drugs.
No, Whitney, look.
Whitney was just.
No,
Whitney was
sorry.
a great singer. She had a great voice, but that was pretty much it.
Exactly. She didn't write. She didn't do anything but great voice. But no,
Yeah.
Whitney doesn't. On mine, you can put on yours. But Aretha Franklin has got to be there.
And you know what? I gotta go back because I just thought about something. I can't have a Mount Rushmore and not have Smokey on it. I mean,
Well,
if we talk about all the hits that Smokey produced, I mean, my God, he wrote what in his lifetime? I think he wrote 100 hits.
Well, I'll tell you
100
that.
number ones. I think.
Well, if you want to, you think of Smokey Robinson in the mirror, but I'll tell you, one of the people I thought about was David Ruffin.
I can't get David Ruffin now.
You'd be shocked how much he wrote.
I know he wrote some good songs, but
You know,
Smokey wrote 100 number one hits.
You know.
I mean, they were talking. So I remember distinctly reading. I was reading about Motown. They had this book. Somebody gave me this book about Motown, and I read the book, and they were talking about how they would have these. They would have these groups, and that before they would go in and play the record for the group, they would let Smokey hear it. And Smokey could almost tell them what the group was going to say, because Smokey was like, "That's a hit. They're gonna love that," or "No, they're not gonna love that one." Or Smokey would say, "Hey, you know what? This is a great song, but the Sade shouldn't be singing. It should be Temptations. And we should change the
Shylight's one with Motown.
whoever. I'm just making up a name.
Oh, okay.
Just relax." And so they would just change. They would say just change the name, right? Just change it from girl to guy, right? And so Smokey was that gifted. So I got to put Smokey on my Mount Rushmore.
So let me add a great book. Since you're talking about Motown, I know we're gonna go down this track, but a great book is called Divided Soul. It is the story of Marvin Gaye, and it's not just about the story of Marvin Gaye, but it's actually the story of Motown.
Really?
So, what was the name of the band that played for everybody?
Oh,
The baddest band in the land, bro.
the Holloman Brothers.
The Funk Brothers.
The Funk Brothers. That's it.
Okay, so let me tell you something that I didn't know until I read, and I read this book years ago, decades ago. What I didn't know, guess who did most of the backup, as far as female backup?
I know this. I can't remember now.
In fact, her
She was
voice.
part of Supremes.
No, she wasn't.
Yes, she was. She was originally one of Supremes, and then that's not her.
No, she wasn't. She actually, when Florence Ballard got sick from the Supremes,
Yeah.
she actually substituted her voice. Also, when Tammy Terrell died, she actually substituted her voice. It'll blow you away.
No, give it to me.
Valerie Simpson.
No, that's not what I was thinking about.
Valerie Simpson.
That's not what I was thinking about. It was another chick that I read. It was not. That's not what I'm thinking about.
So Valerie Simpson was
Another
like
sister, not-
she was the house voice for Motown, and she met Nick Ashford at a what was it? He was homeless when she met him. A lot of people don't know that story, and she was, I think she had a degree or something, and she met him, and it just goes to show you where you can look beyond someone's outward appearance and see their beauty inside, and that's what she did. So, but anyway, we got all off of that. But I thought I'd throw that story out there. One other quick story, and then next hour we want to talk about this thing that went on at the meeting last night. Because I'll be honest, I didn't get a chance to go, but I heard a lot about it. The Office of Child Support, Rizal mentioned this on his show earlier. They are giving you a way to get your driver's license back. Let's see, according to this article, as part of this effort for the second year, they invite parents who are behind on child support payments and whose driver's license have been suspended due to non-payment to work with their local child support office to reach an agreement to resume payment. Of parents who participated in the program known as Back in the Driver's Seat last year, among 60% remain in the driver's seat and are providing support for their children. So you can call the number, and the number is 833-319-2816 to get information. I'm going to reach out to the head of the Child Support Division here to see if they'll come on the air and talk a little bit about this. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't trust it.
Wow.
I just don't. I've grown weary, and I just don't trust child support. their offices over the years. I've seen some dastardly things that they've done. Not saying that this is going to happen, but I've seen child support officers create programs, and when those non-custodial parents, mainly black fathers, got there, they arrest them. So I'm not saying that that's what this program is going to do, but I just don't trust them. I think what you ought to be doing is working to repeal the law that takes driver's license from parents because they can't pay child support. Because stuff happens. It happened to me. Whereas that I was paying an exorbitant amount of child support, lost my job, got behind $3,000, and went to try to negotiate. They threw me in jail.
Really?
Okay?
They gangster.
You see what I'm saying? I went. Now this happened in Tennessee, but the point is that I went to say, hey, look, I've lost my job, and the reason I wasn't behind 6-7 months. That's my point. You see what I'm saying?
They don't care.
I went to them and said, look, the money that I was making, I'm no longer making this. Now, fortunately, later on, I ended up getting a better job, working at Dell, yada, yada, yada. But prior to that, I went through about a year of struggling, trying to pay child support, pay my rent, feed myself, and got behind, went to them and said, hey, look, I know I'm behind, but I would like to work out something. Here's my change of circumstance.
I'll tell you something really interesting.
Let me just finish this. So I knew I was in trouble because I showed up in a suit. And that day, there was about 6 rows on both sides of the court. And everybody in that court, they lined us up shoulder to shoulder, and we sat shoulder to shoulder. And I recall one guy coming in, and he had his IV. I think I told you about this. He had just been released from the hospital, had his IV still attached. And we were out in the hall. I'm saying, man, well, why don't you come down here? He said, man, if I don't come, they're going to throw me in jail. He said, the irony is that the kids and the mother live with me. You get this, right? They live with him. He got sick, went in the hospital. The mother filed child support against him, living in his house. All right? So he was before me, based on alphabetical order. When he went up there, you know what the judge told him? He said, well, I know you've been sick, you've been in the hospital, but I'm going to put you in jail just to remind you how important it is to pay child support. So they sent this man to jail, and at that point, I knew my ass was grass and the judge was the Black & Decker. Okay? And sure enough, when I got up there and tried to explain my change of circumstances, he said, Mr. Coleman, I'm not here to worry about that. Your job is to pay your child support regardless. And they threw me in jail.
Man, let me tell you something. So I had a cat who, he was looking for a job. And at the time, he had went to some kind of training. They give you this training. Now, this guy doesn't have any problems. He's not a felon. Legit guy, right? So he decides, he goes to this training, he spends like $500 to go some kind of training to be like a security guard or whatever else. But you know, he had to get certified. He had to be certified to carry a gun. He had to get his concealed carry. He had to be able to shoot a gun, the whole lot, right? So as the guy goes through the process, he didn't get the security job. So he said, you know what, with these credentials, I should be able to go anywhere and get a job, like in any police department. So I was like, yeah, you know what, that makes sense. I said, why don't you go to Pulaski County and try to become a jailer? Makes sense, right? So a man goes and applies. You ready for this?
I think I'm ready to what it is.
So they come back and say, hey, we can't hire you. And I said, so why they said they can't hire you? He said, well, they told me they couldn't hire me because I had been in jail for child support. I said, what? He said, yeah, the county said they can't hire me because I've been in jail for child support. I was like, you ain't a felon? He's like, yeah, I know. I said, so they actually told you? He said, well, a guy called me and I asked him, why did they not hire me? And he said, because you've been in the county jail for child support. And I said, so, you know, I was thinking, nah, that can't be true. So I called up Doc. I said, hey, Doc, let me tell you something. Let me tell you what's going on. Tell me what you can do. So Doc says, yeah, well, you know what? He says, we usually don't like to hire people who've been in the county jail. I said, so what if they've been in there for, you know, a speeding ticket or anything else? He said, well, I don't know. I said, but Doc, wouldn't you think a guy who's got child support, wouldn't that be a guy you want to hire? He needs a job. He got to get child support, right?
Exactly.
But I thought the irony of that was, I thought it was kind of crazy. Here you are, you won't hire a guy because he's been in jail for child support.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was ironic.
And they threw me in jail because there I was trying to fix my child support.
Yeah. Ain't always good to work with child support, is it?
You know, that's why I'm saying this thing.
Painful, my brother. Painful, my brother.
All right, we're going to take the top of the hour break. We'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to Black Focus Radio. We got to talk about the school thing last night. I understand it was off the chain. I hate I couldn't be there, but I was getting this broadcast together. We'll be back in a moment. You're listening to Black Focus Radio on joynetradio.com.
Peace.
Can I talk to you for a moment? How many people have come up to you and said, "Hey, I didn't know you had a business"? Yeah,
So,
that can happen when you don't have
what's the deal on this the sponsor? Let's look on it.
And let the world know that you're in business. Advertising is so expensive. I've got a great package for you that will cut your expense and increase your bottom line. It's only $125 for startup and new businesses. Call me, David W. Coleman, at 615-554-0568. And I'll put together a package specifically for your business. Now is the time to tell the world, hey, I'm in business. I'll spend your money on quality goods in my store.
It's already brochure already made up.
Here's the number.
Oh, okay. Okay, what is she talking about putting?
Here to assist you building your brand.
Hi, this is Alvin from Habibi's 40.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, I'll I got your email, don't I? Okay, all right.
Give us a call, 501-663-1553 or 664-2992, or call our toll-free number, 1-877-HABIBI-1. Diapers, pull-ups, hospital beds, wheelchairs, Simply Fit, diabetic supplies, underpacks, and more. Your durable medical supply center.
Hi, I'm attorney Theodore Thompson from the Thompson Law Firm, and I want to help with your legal matters. Whether it's criminal defense, bankruptcy, personal injury, or family law, I want to help you. I can be reached at 501-503-5095. Don't face your legal issues alone. You need an attorney whose primary objective is to provide you with the best legal representation. Our office address is 415 North McKinley, Suite 710 in Little Rock. I'm attorney Theodore Thompson, and I want to provide you with the best legal representation.
I'm so glad I found a Kick Above. It's like my very own personal training studio. A Kick Above removed the guesswork and intimidation and offered me a very supportive and structured environment specific to my personal goals. Kim Leverett and her certified personal trainers even offered nutritional guidelines for my personal workout. It's about me at a Kick Above. Call 501-868-8850 or go to akickabove.com. Now, what am I wearing tonight? Thanks to a Kick Above, I look marvelous.
Serving the families of Clark County and the surrounding area since 1966, it's Mitchell Funeral Home. Understanding that a funeral is a celebration of life, the entire staff of Mitchell Funeral Home takes great pride in the caring, personal, and professional service they offer. Cremation, funeral plannings, burial policies, life insurance, notary, and monument sales are free services. Mitchell Funeral Home offers 870-246-2611.
But that's a good thing.
Mitchell Funeral Home. Quality you can appreciate, service you can depend on.
You got it. East Little Rock's answer to your aggravation. The Joy Network.
The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman and Robert Webb.
All right, welcome back to the second hour of the show. Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683. 683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. I want to give a quick shout out to my brothers and sisters in Nashville, Tennessee, for shutting down Paul's Market in North Nashville. I know exactly where that is. Let me just give you a little background, and of course you can follow the story on my wall as well. One of the store clerks at Paul's Market, which is owned by Arabs, I've told you over and over again that Arabs do not like black people. Period. End of story. You go and look at what they're doing to Africans in their Arab-based countries. It is an abomination. In most of those countries, Africans are still being enslaved. So when you go into their stores, just think about it for a moment, that they really don't give a damn about you. And apparently in this particular store, the clerk had beat up a woman with a golf club, had attacked another patron. So black people in that area, North Nashville is predominantly black. They are marching and protesting to shut that store down. So if you are in the Nashville area, Fahim, I know you're there. You're listening today. We have a lot of people listening from Nashville. Get out and support those people who are trying to bring social justice to the community. If you're going to be in our community, you're going to respect our community, or you're not going to make any money. That's just the bottom line on that. And I shout out to those brothers and sisters out there who are on the picket line, deterring black people from going into that store and spending money. So I just wanted to say that. That's how we've got to develop that consciousness, man. We talk about it a lot on this show all the time, is that black people have got to develop a consciousness about our community. We should not be allowing people coming into our communities who don't support our communities. Right. You know, and I tell the story all the time that when we had the flood back in 2010 in Nashville, and that Arab at the end of West Hamilton, who had bought that store, did not want to support that community. That's the oldest black community in Nashville. And I went to Kroger's, I went to Save-A-Lot, I went to his store. Everybody gave a donation because I felt guilty, because I was up on a hill and I could look down that hill and see all of those homes underwater. And my house was not flooded. Okay? So when people, Nashville was flooded all across the city. So people went from community to community. White, black, Hispanic, it didn't matter. And they would come in and they would clean out your house for you. Okay? So all of the carpet, all of the drywall, anything that need to be torn out of those homes, they came into communities to tear them out. So I knew they were coming to my neighborhood, and I said, look, I feel guilty. Number one, I couldn't help because of my back. So the only thing that I knew to do was feed people. So I went and started getting donations of water, hamburgers, hamburger buns, hot dog buns, you name it. So then I pulled my grill down to the street. So as people walked by, I could give them a burger. I could give them some chicken wings. I could give them some hot dogs. And I went to this Arab and I said, hey man, I'm asking you to make a donation for what's going to take place this Saturday. He said, no, I'm not making a donation. I said, excuse me? I said, now I've lived in this neighborhood for 5 years. I said, I know you just bought this store 2 years ago. And I know the money. I know the money that you're making off of this community. And I told him, I said, I'll tell you what. I said, what you don't know is that I do a radio show here in this city. I said, now if you don't make a donation, after all of these stores around this area have donated money and stuff in kind, if you don't make a donation, I guarantee you that tomorrow when I get on my show, that I'm going to light you up.
I'm going to give you some free advertising.
Okay?
Yeah.
And sure enough, I lit him up on my show the next day. When I got off my show that afternoon, I got a call from Hamid. And he said, are you Mr. David? I said, yes, I am. He said, you came in my store the other day, asked for a donation. I apologize tremendously. When you come back today, I will have a donation for you. When I went back to Hamid's store that afternoon, and I went back because I wanted that food to help people.
No, dude.
You know?
No.
And you know what?
No.
Well, I did. But the point being is that he gave I mean, he gave me baskets full of stuff.
No, I wouldn't have went back.
Okay?
I wouldn't have went
So
back.
he thought that on my show the next day that I was going to applaud him. I didn't say a word about him. So my point being
I wouldn't have went. I'd have dogged him out the next day.
Well,
I'd have dogged him worse the next day.
my mind-
I'd call that dog and say he had another call me, and he told me to go F myself the first time.
Well-
I would have never called
well,
him
my
back.
mind was on trying because I'm telling you,
No,
Robert.
dude, no.
If you could've-
what you did was you said, please abuse me some more. See, that's
No,
what I'm talking about
no,
black folk.
no,
black folks
no,
say, hey,
Robert.
listen.
No, I
Don't
didn't,
call me a
Robert.
nigga. Just treat me like a nigga.
No, I
he
didn't,
like
Robert.
he treats you like a nigga. You went back
No,
and got the food
no, I
like
didn't,
you're
Robert.
supposed to.
No.
Come on, boy. Come
No.
on back, get this here food, boy.
No.
That's what you did, Dave.
No, Robert.
Your generation is different than our generation.
I see what you're
Dave.
trying to do to me. It's not working. Okay, it's not working.
Your generation is different than our
Okay,
generation. Dave.
because my mind was on feeding those hundreds of people that walked down West Hamilton, and if you could just have seen the spectacle,
Dave,
it was so
you're not
many
gonna get
people.
me. You're not gonna sway me.
Okay,
You're not gonna sway me.
I ain't trying
I'm
to.
just letting you know. You're not
Okay,
gonna sway me.
and by the way,
You should have took some lighter fluid and a cigarette lighter, and when he gave it to you, you should have put it in the middle of his floor and set it on fire. Dave, come on, Dave. Come on, man. So let me tell you, man.
I'm
We
sorry.
used to do National Night Out.
for Robert
We
being
used to
so
do National Night
violent.
Out, and that little store on the corner of Maple and Ashland. We went and asked them for a donation for National Night Out.
Mm-hmm.
That dude said, "Speak no English."
Really,
I said, "That's all right. You gotta speak no English, player."
but
Somebody asked me to go in there, I would not spend a plug nickel.
Well,
on that place.
to that point, I didn't go into that store spending money.
You shouldn't have went there. When he said
The irony is that that store
you should have
was
gave him nothing.
it
You
was
should've
that
wore him
store
out.
was owned by white people. It was one of the oldest IGA stores in Nashville. And when I went in there and said, "Hey, look, I've got some barbecue rub that I want to sell. Would y'all mind putting it in your store?" They didn't hesitate.
Mm-hmm.
I hated when they sold that store.
'Cause they took out your barbecue rub, didn't they?
After,
He screwed you twice, and you still went
look,
back.
after they
He got you twice.
after they
the
sold
first one, he
it,
didn't give you no Vaseline.
I didn't need them after that
And you've been
because I had other
It don't matter.
stores.
Dave. It don't matter,
Okay.
Dave. You went back and got the basket, Dave. I'm so pissed at you right now. After the show, Dave, me and you gonna fight because I'm so pissed at you right now.
Meet us at 1501 Main Street.
1501 Main, right on the
Well,
corner.
it
It's
was-
about to go
We
down.
selling tickets.
Oh, and by the way, Mama, I'm sorry.
Yeah, get him, Mama Webb. He was straight up acting a fool that first
I
hour.
apologize.
Acted a plum fool, not just a fool, but a plum
I
fool.
apologize, Mama.
Never knew what a plum fool was, but you
Feel like it makes sense to me.
it
He just
never
a
did.
plum fool.
You know, but anyway, so let's talk a little bit about the event that took place last night. You know, at full disclosure,
Oh Lord, now
Both-
I get a text from my mama. Lord Jesus,
Both-
this ain't gonna be good.
both Robert and I have been invited to participate in the Ford NGL program that they are trying to get installed into the Little Rock Public Schools. I will be honest with you, even as I sit here today, I'm still very, very skeptical. I would not be that way if the schools were not being ran by the state. Somewhere down the line, I think it's going to come out that if this program is instituted into Little Rock, that some state official is going to benefit financially. I don't know that to be true, but I just have a feeling. Number two, I have a problem when white people create a problem for black people, and then white people want to come and save black people.
I'll provide a solution.
Okay? Because I have history on my side. Freedmen's Bureau, Black Codes, Jim Crow.
Ask the Indians about the blankets.
You know, right, the syphilis experiment at Tuskegee. Smallpox blankets is what you're referring to. I have a historical problem when white people are coming with their hat in hand saying that they want to save black people, because there is nowhere in the history of this country that suggests that white people have ever wanted to do that. Now, there are pockets, but as a collective group, I have a problem with that. I will always have a problem with that until you cut me a damn check.
Yeah.
All right.
That's how you show love, man. That's
Exactly.
How you really sorry. You break bread.
That's my point.
And you gotta break bread. You gotta really break.
You got to break bread. So apparently, and I had planned to go to that meeting last night, but I had another meeting I had to attend as it relates to the broadcast tonight, so I didn't get out in time. But you saw it on you saw the video. So if you don't mind, encapsulate for us what happened and where do we go from here.
Oh man, the video itself, man, was powerful. I like the video. And the reason I like the video is Diane Zook got up, and Diane Zook wanted to make the point.
Diane Zook is who?
She's a board. She's now the chair of the education board.
Mm-hmm.
And
Black or white?
She's white.
Okay.
And she tried to make the point that we're going to reconstitute the school district. Now, I need to go back to give you some history. You have to do something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can't remember. I think there's like 3 things that you can do. I'm not as familiar with this as I should be, but there are 3 things you can do. You can reconstitute,
consolidate,
and
there's something else.
Right. So there's 3 things you can do. So they're looking at reconstitution. Now, so let me give you a great idea of what that looks like. So you had a school that was failing. Forest Heights was failing.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did, instead of trying to fix the problem, okay, they turned it into a STEM school.
Mm-hmm.
And so they moved in kids who were already doing okay. They moved into Forest Heights.
So they fudged the numbers.
They fudged the numbers, and then all the other kids who were failing, they dispersed them out to the other schools.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what's happening now is that the advocates last night, Anika, Judge Griffin, Joyce Elliott, Senator Chesterfield, Senator Elliott and Senator Chesterfield, J.P. Donna Massey, who else? I'm missing some folks. Diane Charles. You had several people last night who stood up and voiced their concern about what was currently happening with the district. And the biggest thing, what's problematic is that the state board has already acknowledged that the school district has failed. Now, you say, why is that problematic? Because the school district appointed the superintendent.
Johnny Key.
No.
Michael Poore, I'm
Mike
sorry.
Poore. And also, their job is to get the school out of academic distress. That's essentially why you took over the school district, because it was in academic distress.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people say, well, it's gotten worse under their tutelage or under their leadership. Yeah and no. You got to remember that they only had 6 failing schools, but they had about 14 or 15 that had D's. So it was still problematic. Now you have more schools that are failing, right? But again, how do you fix the school district? And what has happened is, and what we know from Little Rock, is that once you go out and decide that you're going to have a conversation with the community, what that means is we've put together our plan. We know which direction we want to go in. Now we need you to buy in. So that's why you have tabletop discussions. That's why you don't have open forums, because you get certain people at the table to buy into what you're trying to sell. And so that's what they were trying to do last night. But Anika, Dr. Whitfield, Judge Griffin, Senators Elliott and Chesterfield, and J.P. Donna Massey did not allow that to happen. They told them, no, we want to have an open discussion. And what's really disappointing about this is that they put black folk up.
Yeah, I heard.
They put black folk up to do this. And the lady, whoever she is, she was horrible. She was really terrible.
One of the other ones was Fitzhill, from what I understand.
Yeah,
as well.
Fitzhill was one.
And I understand he got offended when there was a white guy who got up and pointed out the fact that of all the people you could have sent to this meeting to lead this conversation, you sent 2 black ones.
2 black ones, yeah.
And Fitzhill got offended by that.
Why did he? Because he's not black no more?
Good question. I don't know why. Why are you asking me why he got offended? I'm just relaying what I've heard.
I don't know. And, I'm not comfortable calling people Uncle Toms. Mm-hmm. But if you see a graham cracker, it is a graham cracker. Mm-hmm. Just see it is what it is. Mm-hmm. I like Fitz. I like him. We're Facebook friends. But what disappoints me is that you can't always let them use you as a tool. Mm-hmm. And constantly they're being used as tools on this board. Now, this is what's crazy. Before that, we had some other brothers who was on this board who also voted for the takeover, but they worked for Walmart. And so they were bought and paid for. And that's understandable, right? But what's problematic for me right now is that right now they have these two going around doing all this, right? They got them going around doing these speaking engagements, and it's hard for me not to see these things not be connected, right? So now they're telling us about the Ford NGL, and now they're telling us about reconstituting the district, right? So what's problematic for me is that while I know it's important that we find something for the school district, I believe it's very important that we find something for the Little Rock School District. What troubles me is that I don't know if I can support this. Because, again, it makes me leery of what we're going into. It's uncharted water for us, right? And with all these external things happening with LREA, I mean not LREA, but with LRSD and the state board, how can we trust it? Because this is my thing. So if you get all the school districts to combine under this one premise, right? So you find something, you find something they could all coalesce around, right? And that one thing becomes the district or this Ford NGL. Well, if you can get them all to come together under this umbrella, guess what you just done? You just consolidated the district.
Yep.
You just consolidated Little Rock, North Little Rock, Jacksonville, Pulaski County.
Right.
You just consolidated the district.
Which is ultimately what they want to do. Something.
Ultimately, what they would like to see happen. Now, what's problematic for me is I don't see how that benefits our kids. Now, everybody's saying that when they introduce the Ford NGL, that it is going to be a godsend.
Based on who's saying that?
Well, that's what people are saying about it. Everybody I've talked to about it said they think it's going to be a godsend. But unfortunately, everybody who's talking about the Ford NGL, they're only focused on the program itself. And that's what always gets us, because we're always laser focused on the program, and we're not looking at all these other things that are going on behind the scenes. I think the thing they're doing right now, I think it's very deceptive. The way they're going around having these conversations, I think that's very deceptive because they're really isolated in the places that they're having them. So if you want me to buy in, don't have it at St. Mark. If you want me to buy in, don't have it at Roberts. If you want me to buy in, don't have it at Baptist. If you really want my buy-in, you have it in a place that is neutral. Because then, and not only that though, but you put out information about it. You don't let this be some quiet behind the scenes thing you're doing, because I don't believe that all white people work together in concert. I don't believe that. I don't want to believe that, right? I don't want to believe that. Because again, I say this all the time. I got some very good white friends who I think are great people. And I think they are wonderful people, right? But then there's some people that I know who are wonderful people, but they have agendas. And I get that. Whatever their agenda is, I'm cool with that. What's problematic, again, is that here we are, we're having conversations about reconstituting the district. Here we have this plan that's going to combine the districts. And everybody keeps saying these two things are separate. And to some degree, okay, I'll go with that. To some degree, they are different. Until they're not. When does that happen?
Well, we've been invited to travel to Nashville to witness this program firsthand. I think you just killed my monitor. To witness this program firsthand. Check my monitor plug. You unplugged it.
Did I?
Yeah. And I'm going to be honest with you, Robert. I had misgivings when we were first invited down to the AEA. I have misgivings now. I'm over white people bringing me solutions, and I'm not at the table. I'm over that. Now, just lack of trust. And considering the history of the chamber, I'm going to put it this way. I'm really debating whether or not I'm going to take the trip now. I really am. Because some people say, well, it's a free trip. Well, I don't know if I want to take the trip because I I knew the information that he was giving to us that night was flawed. I knew for a fact that those schools that he was naming were not top schools in Nashville. We've proven that now.
Right.
Okay?
But even more problematic is that the more we talk about this, the more questions now arise, simply because it looks as though, right, you got people working in the background and they're shoving black folks out to say, okay, go talk to your people.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's the most offensive to me. And when the guy made the point that they got a black ahead of the chamber now,
Yeah.
he lost me, dude. I was done.
I've seen it a million times.
I was done.
I've seen it a million times. Now, like again now.
As if to say, hey, we got one of y'all at the head of the board.
Right.
Now y'all need to get in line.
Right.
And I'm so sick of white
He's
people
not
looking at
saying
us
get
as
in
a,
line.
he didn't say that, but that's what he
he's
meant.
saying is, hey, listen, I'm a good white dude.
Exactly.
One of your brethren is on my board.
Come on, I'm tired of that mentality. We are not a monolith.
Yeah,
Okay?
and
And I'm tired of white people thinking that one person, one minister, one state representative, one dog catcher speaks for every black person.
Does not.
They do not.
Does not.
And I'm tired of you treating me that way.
I agree. But I think, again, people are sending me texts now telling me what's a neutral site. So I think we always have bad news delivered to us at Willie Hinton. Willie Hinton would have been a great site. You could have picked several spots around the city. You could have picked Willie Hinton. You could have picked a ton of city sites to have it in, because we'll always deliver bad news in those places, and we're used to it, right? So Willie Hinton would have been a good place. The activity center would have been a good place. Because, again, you sent me a message when you had it at Roberts. The message you sent me was, we're trying to get white people back in the district. So we doing these meetings for y'all, they just kind of perfunctory. But the people we really want to draw in are the white people in Chenal. Those are the people we want back. We want the affluent folks back. We don't want all you broke Negroes back, right? Because here we are, we're having the same conversation. I mean, we're having the same conversations over and over again, right? And you keep, and to some degree, I'm disappointed, because I know there's got to be some black person sitting in some meeting somewhere going, are y'all listening? Are y'all looking at what y'all doing? Y'all don't see what y'all doing, do you?
Apparently not.
It's got to be one black person
Apparently not.
in those meetings saying that.
Apparently not.
It's got to be, Dave.
Because the two black people that they sent out, I mean, you would tend to believe that they were knowledgeable and educated enough to say, "Hey, you're not gonna send me out there as your damn sacrificial lamb."
No,
but
I'm not getting ran over for you.
But it's kind of like and I'm thinking about that first King Kong movie back in the day where they had the woman set up on and they were getting ready to sacrifice her. It's almost like they're running to be sacrificed to prove to other black folks that, hey, they're okay. So y'all come on in.
Well, this is how I see it, right?
I don't get it.
This is how I see it, Dave.
I like Fitzhill, but I ain't getting this brother. No offense, but there's just behind the scenes, just some things that people have made aware to me about Fitz. I'm not getting this brother, man. I don't know him personally,
I can't
but
speak to Fitz.
I
don't know enough about him.
That's what I'm saying. I can't either.
To say anything.
But I'm just saying I'm not getting this brother.
But the optics on this, it ain't good.
It ain't good.
Because it looks as though, and again, I need to say this because it's important. So there are certain people in our community who, some white people, have knighted them. They've been knighted, right? So these black people who've been knighted, what that means is all you Negroes need to get in line and follow them, because they've been knighted, right? So last night, what happened was that Fitzhill and what's her name, the other lady he was with, those two Negroes had been knighted, and y'all should have fell in line because they were knighted by white folk. Diane Zook came up and said, "Hey, they're going to facilitate the meeting. They just got knighted. They just got knighted, and everybody else should have fell in line." Now, what's crazy is that we see this happen all the time in the black community. We see this happen all the time. Somebody comes in, tells us that something's going to be really good for us, and without offering very much information, we usually go along with it, not understanding. And I'm gonna tell you something. I am in a really awkward position when it comes to the Ford NGL. Let me tell you why. Because I know the district needs something. I know it does, right? I know it needs something. But what's problematic for me and why I'm so cautious is that, man, I often hear these words in my head when I was an advocate. Dr. King said, am I rushing my folks into a burning house, right? Am I pushing them into a burning house? And so when I started thinking about the Ford NGL, for the last 2 or 3 days, last weeks, last months, ever since we went to the meeting, man, I'm working every angle in my head I can. Because I want to see how this thing can go badly for us, right? How this thing can go badly for kids in the district. And I'm starting to see this could go badly in a whole lot of ways, right? This could be more deadly or more detrimental than a takeover. And let me walk you through it. You ready?
Go ahead.
Okay. So right now, we're talking about putting these kids into a program that's only going to be at one school, at Hall. Right? Now, if we understand what the real estate community did a few years ago around Hall, how they started saying, hey, listen, this got to change. We can't have these kids out here. We need some more kids out here. We can't have this group of kids out here. Right? They didn't want those kids out there anymore. They didn't want those kids out there anymore. Right? So now you put the program at Hall. Mind you, you already don't want the kids that's out there. How does that work? Then they said, well, we're going to do it in Southwest. Okay. So you only got 3 high schools. You only got 3. So you're going to pile a bunch of kids up at Hall, but you're not, because they don't even want them kids out there. They've already said, the real estate community already said they don't want them out there. They don't want them out there. So you only got one place to put them. Because they're not going to Dunbar. I mean, they're not going to Central. You're going to send them to Southwest. You're going to send them to Southwest High. Right? And so you can't get all of them in Southwest High. Now, mind you, you only got 3 high schools now. You only got Hall, Central, and the Southwest High School.
And you got Parkview.
We ain't including Parkview. You know why, right?
Because
it's a magnet. It won't even come into play, so Parkview does not exist. You only have 3 schools. And technically, you only have 2.
But that brings up an interesting point. So if let's say for instance, all 4 of these districts, Jacksonville, Pulaski County, Little Rock, and North Little Rock, agree to this Ford NGL. So does that mean now that theoretically you can send kids to Jacksonville from Little Rock?
Yeah.
So that's how they're going to solve that problem.
Ding, 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 ding.
That's how they're going to solve that problem.
Ding, 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 ding.
See, they want all 4 of these districts so they could channel certain kids to certain areas.
So you take your white kids in North Little Rock and you send them to Hall. You take your black kids from Timbuktu and you send them to the Southwest Community Center. That's what I'm gonna call it, the Southwest Community Center, right? But now you can send these kids anywhere because you got all 4 districts collaborating,
right?
And all 4 districts saying, okay, yeah, we'll work together. We'll take your kids, but see, it's another way to segregate. It's just a different way of doing segregation. Now, the Ford NGL, that's pretty cool, right? That's pretty cool. But if you know, like I know about the Little Rock School District, you got kids who are in the Little Rock School District now, right now today, who want to take certain classes that their counselors are not allowing them to take. Now, how do we get around that? That becomes a question. You're not changing our teachers. You're not bringing in a whole new group of teachers. You're leaving the same people in place who are already there. You're not changing any of them out. How does that change? How are you going to get kids who are going to end up? And everybody says, well, every kid who wants to be a part of it will be a part of it. Well, not really. If you only got one school, and people say, well, you got schools all over the district. Well, a kid has to be in school so long before he can get over there, right? Because a kid, I don't know what I want to do, and the thing I want might be in Jacksonville. So how do I get to Jacksonville? Nobody's talked about busing. How am I going to get to Jacksonville? What I want might be in Mills, right? Down in Riceville.
Right.
How am I going to get there? Right? These are conversations we've yet to have.
Well, I will tell you that a lot of kids are not riding buses anymore. There are a lot of parents buying Uber and Lyft, sending their kids to school.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact.
But not every parent can afford to do that.
I know, that's the point.
So
In
that
fact,
becomes transportation has always been a hurdle in the black community.
there was a kid that I know that lives in North Little Rock, over behind what is Bunker Hill, in that area. Nice homes over there. White kid. You know where he goes to school?
Where?
He goes to school in Bryant.
Not surprised.
And his mother pays Uber every morning to get him to Bryant. Every morning. So I don't think they're concerned about transportation. In fact, I just think,
Well, transportation ain't even been discussed.
right. I just think, Robert, that there is an ulterior monetary motive behind all of this. I just have to believe
I'll
that.
say this though, because of the chamber, and again, the chamber does a good job. The chamber does a good job of doing what they do, and the chamber's job is to create more opportunities for their clients. I mean, they're like any other union in the state, right? That's their job,
Right.
and I get that. Now, let me tell you what's important. Having a good education system, that's huge that's huge, right?
Yeah.
Now, I can understand them getting behind this for that one reason because it creates other opportunities for their clients. And by that I mean, if you got a better educational system, you got more people moving into Little Rock.
Right.
If you got more people moving into Little Rock, you're gonna need more houses built, you're gonna need more apartment buildings. You're gonna need all these ancillary things.
And
that
then
come
you're
from having a good
then you're Nashville, and then poor people or unemployed people, underemployed people will not be able to live in the city.
Exactly. But they don't care. But that's not their point, though. That's not what they're working toward.
Yeah,
What
it is.
they're working toward primarily is they're trying to make. They're not thinking about what's going to happen to the other people, right? That's not their concern. Their concern is how do we make this city more financially. How do we create a financial boom for our clients? That's what they're thinking. How do we create space for them to make as much revenue as possible?
Right.
And that's their job. Now, the thing that they brought to us, the Ford NGL, that's one step, right? Now, do I think the chamber has a nefarious plan to charterize the district? I don't think so. But what's problematic for me is that here you are, you bring us this great plan, right? And you already got the business community on board.
So here's what I'm thinking about as I sat here and it just hit me. When I first moved to Memphis some 35 years ago, this was the beginning of the change or shift in Memphis and black mentality in Memphis. For a long time, Richard Hackett had been the mayor of that city, had done very little for the community. He was a white guy. He only had a high school education, believe it or not, being the mayor of Memphis. Willie Harrington came along. First he was a school board chairman, then decided to run for mayor. Memphis became predominantly black. And for the first time, Memphians were controlling the city council, also the mayorship, and all of a sudden these proposals came around that, hey, let's combine the city and the county. All right? So Memphis, 70% black. The county, 70% white. So at that time now, it's interchanged now, but at that time, Memphians for the first time realized that we finally have some power in this city. We're going to elect board members that are going to do things for the black community. And of course, you've heard me talk about the African American People's Convention that ended up ultimately electing Dr. Willie Harrington. So I say all that to say that this is why I'm feeling kind of bad about this, because what this sounds like to me is Little Rock is predominantly black. We have to stop that. One of the ways that we can stop that is incorporate or at least invite other parts of the county into the Little Rock area. And they're starting with the schools. This is a plan, just from my perspective, I don't know it to be true, but this seems like a plan of ultimately making Little Rock North Little Rock a metropolitan area. And if they do that, the control that black people now have in Little Rock as it relates to numbers will be gone. This is what I'm thinking. I could be wrong, but we have to understand, whereas that white people, they are proactive. They think of things down the line. We as black people are reactive. Usually we react to what they've already done to us.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're not thinking ahead.
And I just believe, based on their history, that this is what's going on. Now, I might be dead and gone 10 years from now, but I'm telling you, I'm just feeling kind of bad about this. I feel like that this is a means to an end, and that is the only way that they're going to solve the racial disparity as it relates to numbers in Little Rock is to invite the county or North Little Rock into this process.
Well, if you look at Pulaski County, you look at the census data, Pulaski County, it's, I want to say the numbers are so close that it wouldn't change anything. If you look at the numbers, right? If you look at the numbers for the whole county, and I'm gonna pull those up while we're talking, but if you look at the census data for the whole county, I want to say we're pretty close. We may be, it may be like, I want to say it's like maybe 60-40, but it's close, right? And so I don't know about that one. That's something to look at too. But for me, this is what's interesting to me, is that there has forever been this conversation that the chamber was the one who drove the takeover.
Oh, I know.
Right?
And that's where my lack of trust comes from
And
anyway.
So what's ironic is the chamber drives the takeover. Supposedly the chamber drives the takeover. We don't know it to be true, but that's what a lot of people think. The chamber drives the takeover. Then the chamber comes back and says, guess what? We got a great plan.
Yep.
We got a great plan. We're going to bail you Negroes out. We're going to bail you niggas out. Here we go. This is the plan right here. Ford and GL, we're going to bail y'all out because y'all needed bailing out.
That's why I'm telling you, Robert, I'm debating whether or not I want to take this trip.
Well, let me tell you why we got to take the trip. Let me tell you why we got to take the trip. Let me tell you why we got to be supportive of the Ford and GL. Let me tell you why. Because, man, for the life of me, I could not sleep if we did not try to do something to improve the school district, right? But at the same time, we got to be conscious of what's going on around us. We got to be conscious of everything that they're doing every time they're doing it. The reason why is I'm not very trusting right now, especially after what happened last night, especially after what Diane Zook said. Diane Zook said last night, your district's failing. Well, damn, y'all done had it for 4 years.
Exactly.
How is it failing, right?
Wasn't your job
was
to fix it?
Was to fix it, exactly. Right? So that does bother me, and the more I think about the plan, right? Man, when I was an advocate, I would have to eat this, right? I have to put all my fears aside and eat this because I would want to make sure that the program was implemented. I would want to make sure that implementation happened because looking at it on its face, it looks like something really great for students, and I think it'll really go a long way. But what's problematic for me is that we don't have enough data, right? We don't have enough data that says how this thing works, and everybody says, "Oh, yes, we do." Look at graduation rates. Well, listen, the chamber ain't concerned about graduation rates. That ain't the chamber's concern. The chamber's concern is improving the city so that it yields more opportunity for its clients, right?
Right.
So how do you do that? You do that by way of crime. You got to get your crime down, right? So to get your crime down, what do you have to do? First and foremost, you got to fix your education system. Secondly, you got to find something to do with those people who have already fallen through the cracks. What's there for the people who have already fallen through the cracks? Nothing. So you still don't address the issue, even though you're trying to fix the school district. You're starting to repair the issue, but you still got an issue out there that you have yet to address, right? Because overall, the chamber's job is making this place more pleasant for people who they want to bring in industry, right?
Right.
So if you want to bring in industry, you want industry to come into a city that's thriving. It has a good education system. It has low crime. You want all these things. You want your city to look like a thriving city. You can't have a thriving city if you got murders every week. Yep. You can't have a thriving city if you got a murder a week. It don't work that way, right? It just don't work that way. And when they put those numbers up, and everybody in Little Rock has a 1 in 100,000 chance of getting shot, that ain't very good, right?
Hey, let me read this from Dr. Whitfield. The Arkansas State Board of Education has waited 4 years and 7 months to tell us that they may not have done what was necessary to return the Little Rock School District back to local control before January 2020. And with this acknowledgement, there was no mention of apology to the LRSD community, nor solutions like waiving state laws to ensure that the students and LRSD community will not be punished for their negligence in oversight and management of our beloved district. That is profound, because here we are. They've had this district for almost 5 years. Their argument was that schools were failing, and they've done nothing to fix the problem.
They hadn't planned on it. This was not about, this was, I honestly believe now, this is just about them being able, because if the chairman had taken this to that board, they'd been like, man, get the hell out of here.
Mm-hmm.
But they can implement this now, and they ain't got to deal with the board.
Yep.
They ain't got to deal with nobody but the governor.
Exactly.
That's easy breezy, right? But like I said, there's a lot of things. So let me give you this real quick. So Pulaski County, white alone, 57.5%. Black African American alone, 37.5%. But then when you add the Hispanic community in that mix, you got 6.2%. So that gives you what? That gives you 43%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you add everybody else, the numbers are so much closer. Now, I'm not saying that we all agree, right? Not saying that all these people agree with what's what, but you got two or more race, that's 2.2%. You add that together, man, you're looking at like 57-48, right? So the numbers are so close. The numbers are really close. And I said that to say this, that while we're constantly having these conversations, the thing that makes me excited is I really want to be supportive of the Ford NGL. I really want to be supportive of it. And the reason I want to be supportive is I want this to work, because I know kids in Little Rock need this opportunity, right? But I'm leery of being supportive of it because I've seen how these things can devolve into something very ugly and very mean that we never saw coming. And unfortunately, it'll take 20, 30 years before we can get rid of it.
Yep.
Because that's the way things move in Little Rock. Things don't move swiftly here. Especially when black folk are trying to do something. They don't move swiftly. Now, I often ask myself, I've been asking myself this question since we went to that meeting. Dave, if you and me had taken the Ford NGL to the chamber, do you think they would have bid?
Nope.
You think if we took it to the governor, you think he would have bid?
Nope.
So you think it's a good thing just because it's not coming from two black dudes? Just
I
because
don't,
it's coming from the chamber?
I'm going to be totally honest. I don't trust it, period.
You don't trust it?
Nope. I don't trust it because it's coming from the chamber. You know, and in that meeting, I think it was you who made a very salient point.
Yeah.
And that point was that y'all haven't done crap for the black community.
Exactly. And they shouldn't.
Was that you?
That was me.
You made a very salient point in pointing out that you claim all of a sudden you want to bring a program that's going to help black folks, when in fact y'all haven't done anything to help the black community as far as investment, economic development, anything. So all of a sudden now you're going to bring a program and say, hey black folks, this going to work for y'all. See, that's what's sticking in my craw right now.
And even the point, and white people do, and some white people.
And see, I haven't been here all that time, but I can only go by what you guys are saying, and I can go by only the 4.5 years that I've been here.
Right.
Based on what I've seen, is a no. They haven't done anything in the black community, and now you want to bring a program to me and say, hey brother, this is really going to help your community.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I can't drink that Kool-Aid, man.
Well,
I just can't. I mean,
if we look at, so I'm going to say this. Before I started doing some of the things I'm doing now, I did not truly understand the role of the chamber in our city, right? Now that I understand the role of the chamber in our city, I see why they ain't never did nothing for black folks. That ain't their space. They ain't trying to do nothing for black folks, right? They trying to do something for businesses. Now, if you own a business, now the thing we should look at is what they do for small minority business, right? Because that's what they're all about.
What do they
all
do?
about cultivating business. I don't know. I need to find out.
Not much.
But that's my point. I don't know. So my point is that we need to know what these guys are doing by way of small minority business, because that tells you everything, right? It tells you everything. Secondly, the thing that becomes problematic throughout this whole process is that James Reddish, who I've done a lot of research on James, and the dude seems to be legit, right? He seems to be 100. Now they brought this white guy from Louisville, Kentucky. He implemented this program in Louisville, Kentucky, right? And from my understanding, the program is going along. It's going okay. It ain't great. It ain't terrible. It's just okay. It's middle of the road. It's doing its thing. They brought him in to implement this program. Now, the question we have to ask is, the brother. I keep calling him brother because I'm used to saying brother, but I'm gonna say brother. Okay, because I'm gonna keep doing it. The brother seems to be a cool dude. Seems to know his stuff. Seems to be on his game, right? So, if nothing else, we have to give that cat the benefit of the doubt, even though he's with the chamber, right? Even though he's with the chamber, we got to give that cat the benefit of the doubt. Now, again, who else is a part of this team? We don't know. We don't know who else is a part of the team. Now, I know they had my good friend Bucky O'Neill in there, and I don't think this is Bucky's space. There was another lady. It was two other people who were in there. I don't know what they were doing. But what was problematic for me is that I'm always uncomfortable when you have a ton of white people telling me as a black man what's good for me.
Yep.
And that's what they essentially did. They had a ton of white folk sit in this room with all us black folk telling us black folk, look here now, y'all. We went out and done y'all's research. This was good for you niggas.
Now that's what I got out.
We're gonna let you say something about it only because we want to make you feel like you involved.
Oh no, but here's what I like about
it. We already know where we're going.
We gonna take y'all to Nashville, yo. Come on, let's get along home, little doggies. Let's go to Nashville. Y'all ain't gotta even pay.
I'm gonna tell you something interesting, man. So I heard people talking about LREA, the Little Rock Education, the Little Rock Teachers Union. Yeah. So they say that the way that people were able, so Kathy, I can't think of her name now, but Kathy was a president forever, right? So the way she got to be president was she started giving all these black folk trips. So black folk would take trips. They just say, just take your trip. They're having a conference in Hawaii. We're gonna send you to Hawaii. Oh my God, I'm going to Hawaii.
Is that how Sandra still got in little heat?
Yeah. So they sent them to Hawaii, right? So they were sending all these black folk to Hawaii. Not Hawaii, but just different places, right? Okay, so when they came back, they were loyal to Kat. So Kat says, you know what, I think I should be president forever. Let's remove this 2-year clause. They voted to remove it. Kathy kept running. Kathy was president for like 10 years. Everybody else was 2 years, 4 years and out, right? She was there for 10 years. Now, that made me think of this. Myself, I wouldn't go on the trip anyway. And the reason I wouldn't go on the trip is because I'm not really concerned about what they're doing in Nashville, because Nashville compared to Little Rock, man, that's like an apple and a grape. You with me? No way we could compare it to. And for me, I don't want to see what they did, because I don't want our model to look anything like theirs, right? And I want our model to work. Now, well, I'm
thinking about going because I might disappear and hang out with some of my boys.
There you go, on that free trip. I really want to see it be a positive program for kids in the Little Rock School District. Give kids opportunity and access. And if it's not put together that way, and it doesn't look like it's going to be that way, then I'm not going to be supportive of it. But I want us to at least be open to the possibilities. But at the same time, we need to be mindful about all the BS they're doing behind the scenes.
Yeah.
because that comes into play as well. And I don't think we've always been mindful of those things. And for that reason and that reason alone, I'm gonna be supportive, but I'm gonna be supportive with one eye open. You with me? You know, I got one eye open. I got my gun on. I got my hand on my gun on the trigger. I got another finger on the eject button. I'm ready to roll just in case. I'm ready for whatever go down. Because again, I'm not comfortable with the whole. I'm not comfortable with the way this whole thing's been done. And after last night, man, that made me even less comfortable.
Well, I didn't see what happened last night, but if there's a comfortable meter for me, right now that meter is not even registering. I'm just not. I'm a student of history, you know, and I know if white people wanted to save us, we'd have been saved a long time ago. So don't come marching up here in your snake oil salesman uniform trying to tell me that, hey, this is gonna save y'all. I'm not buying that right now. It's hard pressed for me to buy it, period. And don't put your okie doke Negroes out front to be cheesing and grinning, talking about, hey, look, y'all, it's gonna be okay. No, we've been there, done that. It's time for black people to stop falling for that okie doke. And it seems, I may be wrong. I'm like you. I hope it's something positive. But right now, I'm feeling like this the okie doke again. And I'm just not gonna fall for that.
I hope it's not the okie doke, man, because our kids could really use this.
I agree.
But I will say this, man. You can no longer put these graham crackers out in front and think folks gonna bow to them, because this shit ain't. Because it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna happen.
And it ought to be pretty obvious, but they're not paying. They're not paying attention.
No.
They're not paying attention.
Folks ain't bowing, man.
All right, we got to get out of here, folks. Don't forget to join us at 4:45 this afternoon for our first Little Rock Central High School football broadcast. Looking forward to doing that broadcast tonight. And, of course, we'll be back tomorrow. Our issues, our solutions, our voices here on JoyNetRadio.com. It's called Black Focus, and as you can hear, we love doing it.
Hey, spend money on community. If you don't, nobody else will. Peace.
Having the opportunity to ride on the front or the back or the middle of someone else's bus doesn't dignify you. When you have your own bus, then you'll have dignity. Brother Malcolm speaks from the grave. Y'all have a great day.
You've been listening to Black Focus, where we discuss our issues with our
Y'all have a good day. Thanks, man. Thanks for joining.
Join us every weekday afternoon.